I'm Greg Gutfeld, along with Kayleigh McEnany, Jessica Tarlov, Jesse Waters, and she roasts marshmallows over a birthday candle. Dana Perino, The Five. President Trump giving Iran another love tap. The U.S. launching self-defense strikes against Iranian mine-laying boats and missile launch sites as they push for a deal to end the conflict and reopen the Strait of Hormuz. Trump is insisting peace talks are still proceeding nicely, and little Marco says it'll just take a few more days to get a deal done.
It's going to take a couple days to settle on even down to the disagreements over a word, sentence. So we'll have to work through that. If there's going to be a deal, we're going to have to work through that. But this is, it's either going to be a good deal or there isn't going to be one.
Meanwhile, the Democrats are accidentally proving Trump's point on the nukes.
At no point in the last decade have they been weeks away from having the nuclear weapon. The intelligence community has never assessed that to be a case. Now, that doesn't mean that they weren't some months away. Let's not underappreciate the fact that Iran, had they wanted to, probably could have assembled a nuclear device at any point in the last decade or so in a matter of some months, right?
Dana, see, this was all for nothing. They were months away, not weeks away.
It reminds me of yesterday, I was asked by a friend to give her like a couple of weekends that were available in the summer to get together. And I looked at the calendar and I was like, well, summer's over. There are no weekends available because that's how fast a month goes by. So that argument is kind of silly. I do think that there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding this. President Trump's going to have a cabinet meeting tomorrow, and I was just told it's actually going to be at the White House now, not at Camp David. I would say this, Iran is definitely weaker than it was before because of President Trump. So not only with the Soleimani killing in the first term, but Operation Midnight Hammer, and then this more recent operation which took out all the leaders, not all, most of the leaders, 46 or 47 of them, and most of the ballistic missile program, but not enough to say that that is over. So they are weakened, but Iran still maintains the ability to cause some pain. And the Strait of Hormuz is one of them. However, it is a good thing for us that we have all of the Gulf allies on our side to say, no, the strait needs to be open and we have to go back to the way it was. Nobody gets charged. That's the way that it has to be. I think the realistic scenario is that we go, as General Keane said this morning, that he doesn't think that we're going back to using any weapons. He thinks that President Trump has chosen a diplomatic path, and so I guess you try to get to the best deal that you possibly can. And in that scenario, you deal with long-term containment. And how different does it look from before? Well, as I said, they're weaker. And you get some sort of deal on the uranium in a way that is assured to the Americans and to the allies in the region, of course, to Israel. And then you have to deal with sanctions. But I would imagine that President Trump is not afraid to use military force. Obviously, he's willing to do it. And I believe that if they keep that threat at the ready, and Iran believes that that threat is at the ready, that the long-term containment could actually be assured. But I'm not sure.
Excellent assessment, Dana.
Thank you.
You know, Jesse, I was thinking how the secret to an effective deal is not being the one who wants it done fast. In any real estate deal, as you probably know.
As we both know.
Yes, but Iran has no real ability to do anything fast. It's destroyed. So it's like the environment dictates the pace. And that's kind of to our disadvantage, correct?
Yes, but you could say that the blockade puts us in a much stronger position. And that's what's gotten them to the table after the ceasefire. But I wanted to keep pounding Iran. I wanted to keep hitting them harder. Maybe I had a little bit of war fever. I don't know. But if you're saying you can destroy the uranium, then I say you take the deal, because Space Force is watching it. They can see the 3 sites. It's under the rubble. They're watching it like a hawk. And Trump's not going to get snookered. That's why we have the aircraft carrier strike groups still there, and the carriers are going to be there until we can verify that the uranium is going to have been destroyed. And that's like what you saw with the Strait. We got to keep them there to keep them honest in the Strait. And that's when you see the Mosquito fleet, if they lay a mine, you light them up. And they retaliated with some missile strikes, and then we wiped out their launchers. Step one to the deal is they have to stop terrorizing and tolling the strait. Nothing else happens after that. If you unlock that, then everything else falls into place. But if you were to tell me before this, you're basically killing the Ayatollah, crippling Junior, destroying the uranium and most of their conventional military, and then putting on a world-class air campaign and naval blockade in front of the world, I'd say that's a pretty effective mission. But Trump wants to go bigger. Trump wants to leverage the Arabs into the Abraham Accords. So you guys have to treat Israel the right way. It's basically an anti-Iranian alliance. So if there's an attack on Israel, it's bad for business, and we don't have to referee the sandbox. The only thing is that you're going to have to unlock some money. Now, it's not like sending pallets of cash over there like Obama did. It's basically just unfreezing some of their accounts. But that's like peanuts compared to the hundreds of billions of dollars that they've lost because of the sanctions, the blockade, the war. It's absolutely crippled them. So I bet a lot of these guys, they unfreeze the accounts. I bet they fly to Beijing or fly to Vlad's neighborhood and just hang out with the mistresses, because it's not a safe place to be. It's not a good place to be in Tehran after all this. And Hines, he's basically admitting he's an idiot. He's saying that, yes, I was perfectly comfortable with Iran on the cusp of a nuke, armed to the teeth, and us not being able to do anything about it. No bueno.
No bueno. Jessica, I hope you had a lovely Memorial Day hating America.
What?
I'm joking. Do I have to say I'm joking?
My mom's watching.
Oh, she's
I love your mother.
today. She's
Wonderful.
Judy rules.
It's an odd responsibility for the victor, but they still have to create some kind of face-saving move for the loser. What might that be for Iran? You have 30 seconds.
It'll come down to the details of whatever this is. You know, if they get a deal, is it going to be better, the same, or worse than the JCPOA? That's what it's going to get compared to. I loved the quote from Jesse there about the money that would be released to the Iranians, that it denying the fact that it was their money that was being held in Qatari bank accounts when Obama did it, only $1.7 billion, not the huge numbers that people say, versus what's going to happen this time when Donald Trump has to give them some of their money in order to get them to take a deal. And we'll see how it all unfolds. I'm fascinated by Iran saying, we might not toll the strait anymore. There's just going to be a fee that you pay for quote unquote environmental protection, which sounds like you're continuing to toll the Strait of Hormuz. And nobody has yet mentioned the importance of the domestic pressure right now on Donald Trump. The lack of fertilizer that is getting to our country. If turn on any channel, you'll see interviews with farmers who are saying that it is complete dire straits at this point. We already have a record number of bankruptcies. And so it seems to me, and we'll see what the deal looks like if there is one to be had, Donald Trump needs a midterms deal more than he needs a nuclear deal at this point, and is willing to make a deal and punt some of the more complicated stuff down the road, continue the ceasefire in that respect so that we can deal with $4.50 gas, approval ratings in the tank, minus 52 on inflation, minus 24 on foreign policy. You want to say, oh, this is a great solution to all of this. There are a number of conservative supporters of the war who feel, like you did in your initial statements, Jesse, that they want actually more firepower. They don't want us to walk away at this point and just have a diplomatic solution. And I'm not sure at this point that Iran actually does think that we are willing to come at them with missiles again, because we've been threatening, nuclear plant day, bridge day, tunnel day, whatever it is, for a long time at this point. And I'm not saying that I want them necessarily to call our bluff, but I'm not sure that they're quaking in their proverbial booties as much as you might think.
Yeah, the Iranians aren't scared at all, Jessica. They're
but
living
listen,
underground with no
they're
electricity.
not all. This is to ignore the heaps of reporting about their capacity, that their missile capacity is much stronger than we thought. The concerns that even the vice president, our own vice president, has about our ability to continue our munitions supplies.
Yeah, we're in dire straits.
Well,
Here in the USA.
The good news is the loss of fertilizer from Iran is being offset by Jessica's answers. Kaylee, I leave it to you I feel that the response to all Democrats should be Trump did the work, so shut up. He understands that there's a risk involved to his own polls and everything when you do something like this, but it's now the cleanup is often harder than the attack itself.
Yeah, I mean, Jessica, the idea that Iran doesn't believe or fear military action, a dead Ayatollah would say otherwise. Oh, wait, he can't speak because
he's with his 72 virgins.
This is the president that took action. You ask, would this deal be better or worse than the JCPOA? I think that's the correct comparison, and the answer to that is better. I spoke at length with a senior administration official on Sunday, and they said to me the entire concept of this is no dust, no deal. There will be no deal without the nuclear dust, the enriched uranium. They said they are 95% of the way there. It'll be about 5, 6, 7 days is the timeline of these remaining negotiations on language. That puts us at Thursday, Friday, Saturday. We'll see if that timeline holds. They said they basically have a deal on the dust. They have a deal on the Strait of Hormuz. The rest is language. So we'll see. 95% is not 100%. And they said, we're not afraid to walk away and we have optionality. We could resume strikes. How is this different than President Obama's JCPOA? It is very different. The JCPOA had a 10 to 15-year sunset clause. So, okay, we're good for 10 years, but little Blake, little Nash, my kids, they aren't safe because 10 to 15 years you can resume creating nuclear weapons. That makes no sense. It also had no inspections, no anywhere, anytime, anyplace inspections. This deal would be a deal where immediately, as the president said, the uranium, the dust would be brought home and destroyed or destroyed in place. That would be a significant achievement, one that no president before could make. And to Jesse's point, you have the Abraham Accords now, too. The president says immediately he wants Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Pakistan, Turkey, Qatar, and Jordan to sign on to this. It is an entire restructuring of the balance of power of the Middle East. Now, all that to be said, we'll see what happens by this weekend. This could all go away. But I know this, we have a president that doesn't make bad deals. And we have a president that put Maduro in handcuffs, indicted Castro, killed the Ayatollah, freed the hostages, and settled 8 conflicts. Pretty good track record.
All right. That was fun.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.